My father and Simon Cyrene washed themselves with the water in the wooden vessels which stood outside. Then they anointed themselves and put on fresh garments, that they might greet their guests worthily, and not in workaday raiment. I too washed and anointed myself, and put off the clothes of my journey. I drew from my bundle the ketonet pasim, the coat of many colors, which was my holiday garb. I rubbed unguents into my hair and earlocks, and while I did so, I prayed in my heart, "May it be thy will, Father in heaven, that I find grace in the eyes of my rabbi, so that he shall draw me nigh to him and not hold me at a distance." When I was all prepared, I took up my station on the threshold of the house and waited with trembling heart. The men of the household helped to arrange the mattresses and to set the little tables near the couches. The women made the last preparations. They brought in raw and cooked vegetables in colored earthen pots and plates. These Simon Cyrene must have brought with him from his own country, for I do not remember that such were in use in Judea. The room had been swept clean, and fresh olive branches were placed as adornments on the tables. Simon's wife, wearing a violet-colored head covering, brought forth flat cakes wrapped in white cloth coverings. She also put before the seats which were to be occupied by the rabbi and my father 2 wreaths of olive, such being the custom in their country when guests of honor were awaited. Cruses of olive oil and vessels of rich honey were ranged on the tables, and near them stood gourd flasks into which my father poured the wine, and baskets of dried figs. On the stone structure outside the door were prepared bowls of fresh water and clean towels. The oil lamps hanging from the ceiling threw their quiet light on the friendly room. A white sheet was hung in the open doorway as a sign that guests were awaited, and to proclaim that any that were hungry might enter the house and eat. Soon the first guests arrived, 2 dyers clad in washed garments with colored threads in the lobes of their ears. They were countrymen of Simon's and wore the costumes of Cyrene, tunics of violet and black and high leather sandals. Their heads, anointed with oil, were covered with olive wreaths. When they had been presented to the guests from Sharon, they were shown to their places at the tables. As others arrived, they were directed, according to their rank, their age, and their learning, to the mattresses in the middle of the room, or the couches ranged round the walls. Hillel the water carrier entered, and was shown to a place of honor at the head. The same distinction was accorded to Judah Ishkariot the Pharisee, who, like Hillel, was counted among the sages. Thus we waited for the coming of the rabbi, who arrived when night had fallen. With him came his 2 foremost pupils, Alexander and Rufus, the sons of Simon. They walked across the yard carrying oil lamps in front of their rabbi to illumine his path. The entry of the rabbi was the signal for all of us to stand. We waited until he had washed his hands and taken his seat at the head place, which was indicated by the adornments of tapestry and woolen cloths which overhung it. Alexander and Rufus did not sit down with the rest of us, but stationed themselves by the rabbi to serve him. How I envied them that evening, the honor which was theirs to be the servitors of the rabbi. I looked forward to the day when I too might stand by the rabbi's side and anticipate his wishes. I did not take my eyes off him for a single moment. I marked with the utmost attention every gesture he made. I learned from him there and then the proper way of breaking bread, of placing salt upon it before uttering the benediction, of dipping the pieces in vinegar or honey. I observed the manner in which he ate, quietly, attentively, as though he were preparing a sacrifice before the altar. Thus indeed it was, as he later instructed me, for the table at which men sit and eat should be likened to an altar, and those assembled about it must be pure and respectful, as in a sanctuary. Moreover, when men break bread together and do not converse of the Torah, they may as well be eating the flesh of corpses or the sacrifice of idols. Indeed, soon after we had begun to eat, the rabbi lifted up his voice and told the assembly the reason for his lateness. This year, as you all know, the Passover will coincide with the Sabbath, Whenever it happens that the first day of the festival is a Sabbath, there arises again between the sages and the priests an ancient division of opinion, and the problem is this: shall the Passover sacrifice be considered as having priority over the Sabbath, or shall it be delayed until after the passing of the Sabbath? Again, as sundry of you know, there is an old regulation which has settled this question. It was promulgated by the Venerable Hillel, who acquired great fame thereby, and it ruled that the Passover sacrifice takes precedence over the Sabbath. The Venerable Hillel referred his decision to the teaching of Shemaiah and Abtalion, the sages from whom he learned the law. But even until this day, the priests of the Sadducean party raise the whole question anew and challenge the ruling of Hillel. And they do this because the triumph of Hillel's interpretation has given great standing to the Pharisees and has opened the way for them to introduce others of their laws in the temple service, which the priests regard as an infringement on their prerogatives. Thus, chiefly for the benefit of those who were not learned in the details of the law, Rabbi Nicodemus explained the nature of the discussions which had kept him till a late hour in the Sanhedrin. Observe, all of you, the greatness of the Venerable Hillel, the rabbi continued. The regulation which he handed down to us teaches us much more than the simple fact that the Passover sacrifice takes precedence over the Sabbath. It teaches us that we must perform the will of God in love and in freedom of spirit, and we must likewise bring to bear our understanding upon the manner of our obedience. We must apply in his service all the gifts and faculties with which he has blessed us. We are not blind slaves to him, as the Sadducees teach, carrying out his commands without desire. We are his children, as the verse says, "Ye are sons unto the Lord your God," sons of freedom. We have not been given unto the Torah, it is the Torah that has been given unto us, and having received it, we shall study it closely and learn its meanings. Thus it is with the rules and commandments also. You shall live in them. Such is the Sabbath too, for the Sabbath is not a taskmaster. It is not like a beast that has been sent upon us to destroy us. We have not been delivered unto the Sabbath, but the Sabbath hath been delivered unto us to be our delight. The guests swallowed eagerly the words of the rabbi. Their eyes were fastened on him as he swayed back and forth, drew gently at his beard, and continued to preach. Our sages have ruled that we shall repeat twice daily the prayer, "And thou shalt serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul." To what may this be likened? It may be likened unto a master who addresses himself thus to his slave, "Thou shalt serve me not for the sake of thy pay, but in love." But how shall the master know which of his slaves serve him for pay and which in love? Those slaves that return to him after liberation and cleave to him are the ones that serve him in love. God has given unto man freedom of will, that he may choose between good and evil. For God desires that man shall come to him of his own choice, not like a slave that serves for hire, but like a son who serves his father in love. These were the first words of the Torah which I heard from my rabbi, and they have never departed from my mind. I stood, as I remember, behind my father, and looked breathlessly at Rabbi Nicodemus. Not the words alone entered into my heart, but the gestures, the utterance, and the accentuation. My soul was bound to his from that first evening on, and my love for him was stronger than the first love of a youth for the maiden of his choice. Later that evening my father took me by the hand and approached the rabbi respectfully, saying, "Rabbi, this is my son, whom I have brought to deliver into your hands. If he has found grace in your eyes, be his father henceforth. Be as he that gave him life, in that you give him the Torah." My heart hammered so loudly in my breast that I was sure everyone could hear it. My hands trembled, and my whole body shook with happiness and fear. The rabbi took my hand in his and calmed me. I remember also that he passed his hand over my hair, and it was as though the fingers of a beloved one had been lifted over me in a caress. "My child," said the rabbi, "tell me thy verse." This was the custom among us. Every child was given a verse of the Holy Writ, and this was his verse, which was to accompany him in life. I answered, stammering, "L'hakshiv, l'chokhmah, Hoznecha, incline thine ear unto wisdom, and turn thy heart toward wisdom. And for what reason dost thou seek wisdom, my son? The rabbi asked. In order that I may serve God with an open heart, like a son of freedom, and not with a blind and unseeing heart, like a slave, I answered, even as you, our rabbi, have taught us this night. Rabbi Nicodemus placed both hands upon my head and uttered this benediction. May those who are like you multiply in Israel, and may it be the will of God that you shall grow in worthiness as a son of Abraham. With that he charged his other pupils to receive me in their midst, saying, Henceforth he is your brother. Receive him as such, and let him be a third with you. That same night I said farewell to my father. When the feast was over, I gathered my clothes in a bundle and followed him who had begotten me in the Torah.